agreed programs, how are we going to ensure that once the agreement is signed and ratified, it is implemented? And it's a big question, but in my view, we really need to think around it to say, how do we involve the people that are around trade, the police, the immigration officers, the non-tariff barriers, the other issues that we know are holding us back when it comes to trade. So we need to really think about, because after the signature and ratification, the key question is the implementation. How do we ensure that the agreement is implemented?
Thank you for that question. Very important about implementation. That's kind of the central basis for the 2 days. So really important question. I believe we have one more question in the front. Two more. Okay, we have one other one then.
Merci beaucoup. Je voudrais revenir sur
Thank you. I would like to go back to this monetary issues, very important. We may not have a unique currency, but we can have something that, like a reference for the kind of a currency as reference that may really, some of these currency may be used. We can adopt the kind of common currency. If not, we don't have the same culture. Though there's this issue of signing or not signing. The main issue is that, do we have the industrial capacity to have this agreement signed, to implement this agreement? Let me give you this example that America has signed for this for a project with some African countries that do not have the capacity. So later they realized that some of the countries they signed the agreement with could not really meet up with some of the needs. So if we signed this agreement and we discover that we don't have some kind of capacity to hold them together, what will happen?
Another very good question. And the gentleman on the end, please.
Thank you very much. If and when the AFCFTA gets signed, it will be the largest free trade agreement in the world. And it will also cover arguably the largest landmass for a free trade area in the world. So the question is, to everybody is, how do we get goods across? Because it's all going to be about logistics and infrastructure. Today, even within ECOWAS, there's very little trade between Nigeria and Senegal because we can't get stuff there. Okay, how am I going to get stuff to Rwanda? How am I going to get stuff to Kenya? So, I mean, at the heart of this is it's going to cost a lot of money. There needs to be a parallel conversation on that. And beyond that, I think earlier on during the agribusiness section, the cross-border warehouses, security, roads, in the EU and the US, they spend a lot of money on this. So we just need to think about that as well. Thanks.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you for that. We're actually, the first session tomorrow is financing the AFCFTA, so that's definitely something that you should probably join because it'll give you a bit more information about financing. So 3 really pertinent and important questions and very large questions. I'm going to start with the Ambassador Osokwe, because you weren't speaking in the last round, so I'm being democratic. Let's start with a question about adhering to agreed programs. How do we ensure implementation? You spoke a bit about it before, but you know, when it's signed, when it's agreed, how do we ensure that it is implemented and that we have good governance around the mechanisms in place?
Uzo, you are right that the 3 questions that we have in this last cycle, they go to the heart of the matter. And here is the answer. We have to simplify it. Economic governance on the continent and in individual countries, it's very low at all levels. The monetary question again, and then of course implementation. The questions are the same. And here is my answer, not just as a trade negotiator, but somebody also involved in economic governance at this time. Point number 1, The answer will lie at what we do at 4 levels of, use an academic jargon, analysis. One is the national level of economic governance. And I think that what Nigeria is currently doing sets a good template. The second level of analysis would be what Alhaji Dangote said in the morning, and Commissioner Muchanga also said in the morning, building the internal market. And here the best example in the world is the European Union. There is a method to building an internal market. The third level of analysis would be what happens, which is something that we have not talked about today at all. This is what the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat would do. In the framework agreement, we create a secretariat for the AFCFTA. We haven't talked about it today at all, and it's not on the agenda for tomorrow either. But let me put it on the agenda. You need a first-class, world-class, competent secretariat with a head that is technocratic, driven, knowledgeable, networked into the African countries, a bit like the European Commission in Brussels, driving the construction of the internal market. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And so you have these levels of analysis. You have the nation level, what we're trying to do in Nigeria, and we're building it up, brick by brick. I know that what we're doing now will pass muster. The second level is what we will do in ECOWAS. I'm now giving you a Nigerian optic to that answer. And let me repeat Dangote, not because it's quotable, but because it's right. It's not working in ECOWAS. It's not working for a number of reasons. There is no engine that's driving ECOWAS. ECOWAS is in flux. I'm an ECOWAS citizen, so I can be forthright about this. Let me give you 3 examples from within the ECOWAS community, so you have an understanding of what the problem is. Take trade policy. You have ECOWAS members who have duty-free, quota-free market access into a number of developed economies and developing economies. And so their exports or their imports, depending on how you look at it in the developed country markets, have no tariffs on them. What does that mean? It's a regular supply of non-value-added raw materials, primary commodities, perish the thought of industrialization. Some others have export duties, which still within ECOWAS, by choice. I am not giving you any names, by choice, because it's more than, country naming and calling. It's a bit more sophisticated than that. And there are some with export duties that don't allow their exports. And then we have to build up the capacity of the Commission itself. There are ways to go. We don't have an ECOWAS trade policy committee where sovereign members with a chairperson elected by members drives economic policy, trade policy. So who's running ECOWAS in terms of trade policy? We'll be meeting in Abidjan, 7th to 9th. I will be chairing the meeting, and I'm not leaving Abidjan until we have an ECOWAS trade policy committee to drive the process of building. I'm not leaving. I'm serious. And I have the mandate of my president. I am not leaving Côte d'Ivoire, Abidjan, until we have an ECOWAS trade policy committee. Who runs ECOWAS? And let me be a bit critical. I mean, I can be about my own country. I'm Nigerian, but Nigeria could do a bit more in ECOWAS. The less said, the better. That's the extent I'll go with my self-criticism. But we have to get it right. There has to be a choreography. There has to be a choreography to the AFCFTA, unless it's not going to happen. And this is what, there's a lot of brain power within the Nigerian government today. And you heard our vice president. He has thought this through with the economic management team. It's not a joke. They've looked through this and they said, it's not just a question of signing. Ambassador Sakwe, I know you're a stallion. You wanted to gallop away and get this signed, but let's make sure that we do this properly. So to conclude on this, and so that my other colleagues on the panel will have a chance, one of the things where I'm going to stand advised by Mr. Melaku, Professor Melaku from Ethiopia, he's here somewhere, he's there, and David Luke, is tomorrow I'm hoping to work with them very directly on stage 2 of the AFCFTA. We've learned important lessons from stage 1. In ECOWAS, we have learned lessons, where we just simply slithered all over the place and we haven't moved on ECOWAS. When Alhaji Dangote says that ECOWAS isn't working, it's not just vituperative. It's not just, this is a serious guy who knows what to do and how to make money. It's not working, and it's not an abuse. We have real work to do, and I'm glad for the last 3 questions that we have. So this would be my answer to it, and what we have to find now, Uzamaka, is we have to find a leader of the orchestra. We on the continent, because this is massive. If you've been in trade policy for as long as I have been, you need a leader of the orchestra. This requires a choreography that, frankly, is out there in the stratosphere. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how many signatures. We can multiply 55 by 2, and it's not going anywhere unless we have this properly choreographed with a leader of the orchestra. I'm waiting.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I see the Minister of Trade of Mali etching forward to answer to those comments. I guess it's encapsulating some of the questions that were asked about, are we ready in terms of governance, industrial capacity, but also moving goods across markets. So I'm going to hand over to His Excellency, the Minister of Trade.
Merci.
I'm going to answer these questions, but before that, we should not throw the baby with the bathing water, because we have to be reasonable. Because ECOWAS was not established yesterday. Truly, ECOWAS member states have this governance problem. Each country has its own challenges at the African levels. Each country has its own challenges. But we know that the quality of governance is not the same in all African states. Take a country like Rwanda. It nearly disappeared some years ago. But today, when you talk about government, is one of the most respected countries in Africa now. What Rwanda did in less than 25 years, why can't we do it? We that have been independent since 1960. I think the leadership at the international level is not just imposed. I'm sorry, when I listened to the Nigerian representative, he was talking about the leader. The leader has to be from Nigeria.
On ne le reçoit pas, s'il vous plaît.
We are not receiving.
Son microphone est coupé. Son microphone est coupé.
Hello.
Pour
why can't Nigeria not impose itself as the engine of ECOWAS? Because Nigeria is the first economical power in Africa, so I think there's no problem if he decides to really handle things. I think I've listened to a lot, but I was disappointed by some of his statements. We are here. We are as if we are dealing with a businessman. All country members of ECOWAS have a kind of law on competitions. Nigeria doesn't have that kind of law. How do you want to have a clear management of business if you don't have competition? So this must be, if there is no law on competition, so we cannot be part of that kind of game. All country members of ECOWAS country members have a kind of policy on competition. So if we have to tell ourselves the truth, we need to be sincere in our statement. The economic leadership of ECOWAS must be handled by Nigeria. Who is preventing Nigeria from doing it? Why did Nigeria not impose itself as the economic engine of ECOWAS? Let's talk about the border countries within inland countries. We know what we're suffering. We know what we're going through. When we're talking about ECOWAS, the exchange between ECOWAS member countries are not working. It's not a joke. We don't have business partnership with Côte d'Ivoire. We don't have it with Senegal, and it's because of ECOWAS. It's because of the trade agreement of in ECOWAS that we can have some of the goods in our country, because some goods are quite expensive in Mali than elsewhere. So we should not take our internal problem at the continental level. Each country has its own challenges, but the challenges in each country must not be imposed on others. I think the debate we are having currently should be objective. Today, based on the first stage, we are already working on the institutional framework on this free trade zone. So this institutional framework will create a kind of environment that will elevate countries' performance on trade. So we should not take a government policies, country policies, and mix them up. I think we have our own realities. We have to develop some kind of policy that will be applicable at the international level. So we need to put in place those policies. So what I'm listening to now will only drag us back. So there are some questions, there are some issues the ministers are meeting on, and we are going to work on now. We need to move forward. So when it comes to the monetary issue, I agree with what you said. We need to have a kind of agenda, and for the industrialization matter, there must be an investment program at the ECOWAS level. I said it earlier, in each organization there were some positive results. So let's be positive too. Let's be positive on what has been done, and let's reinforce it, let's improve it. So our investment program that we enjoyed in Mali are programs that were created by ECOWAS, and we need to reinforce those aspects or those programs. And this engagement must be spread over all over ECOWAS member states. So we should not wait for somebody. We should not just wait for someone to just take the mantle of leadership. We need to work together. We need to move ahead. So we need to. Nobody will just sit. Somebody cannot just sit in his corner and wait for somebody to appoint him as a leader. So things cannot work that way.
Thank you very much. I now want to hand over to the technical advisor on trade from Benin. I want us to kind of focus more on the AFCFTA so that we're not so much on ECOWAS. Thank you.
Tout à fait. La ZLECA.
The AFCFTA is offering a kind of internal wide market for transport becomes wider, industry wider, becomes wider. So the captains, leaders that are handling those sectors are no longer the same. And they must have joint efforts. So this is the vision we are trying. This is the vision that is having an African kind of car, as a brand of car for Africa. So we must also think about creating our own airline, African airline, standard, recognized. So I need to confess that the analysis, the analysis Dangote did earlier is not far from what my president said. Because my president is thinking that West Africa, what is West Africa? How many people do we have in ECOWAS? How many states? Yes, Benin is one of the countries in the lowest ladder of ECOWAS. So, but we're thinking, what will this bring to us? Based on the relationship with the other states, with the convictions that AFCC is a good initiative, all these things we are planning must yield positive results. So most of the people meeting today are leaders, but we need to have people from the private sectors, people from like Alhaji Dangote, that have the same profile. What is their vision of ECOWAS? People like that, where are they? Those people do not expose their challenges to ECOWAS because they handle it in another way. So let me take the example of managers of companies in Africa. Problems that are exposed at ECOWAS level are just minor problems. So these are people who are talking about billions of containers. How do we make sure that people like that are met? People like that meet up and discuss. So I'm not saying that there's a kind of reality that we must really look forward. So I'm not saying that ECOWAS should not continue to exist, because ECOWAS should have been a kind of body that is closer to the population, to the citizens, so that the citizens will enjoy it more. Because ECOWAS so far has not yet produced or created any airline company. And without an airline company, what can we really do? Without harmonizing our norms, without any harmonization of our educational sector, without any harmonization of our engineering courses, without any harmonization of our markets, what can we really achieve? Benin has been able to showcase its engagement in this matter, and with President Buhari, they have been able to inaugurate to commission the new project, as in the border posts. So anytime you go to that place, you will see that the immigration, Nigerian and Beninese immigration are together, working together. So that's the kind of thing we need to emulate as country members of ECOWAS. I have faith in AFCFTA. I believe that we need leaders that can go beyond the level of what our current leaders have done. So these are people that should be able to direct their sectors. I talked about the European Union earlier. There are champions in each sector. There are champions in each domain. When you're talking about the branches, each member, each leader is playing his role. So Benin Republic is playing his own role. Nigeria can also play its role. Togo can play its role. And at the point, countries will just disappear. We will just be talking about community. They will have a common agricultural policy, common agricultural educational program. So there's this policy at the level of European Union, a kind of policy that aims at helping other countries. So we are the human beings, we are the people to implement those policies. So we need to share a common vision. So I repeat, all actors, all stakeholders must play their roles. What the leader of a company will do, it will be different from the leader of a village community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At that point, I would like to thank all of my panelists for your contributions this afternoon and throughout the day, actually. And just to kind of sum up the day, we've spoken about transforming African economies through the AFCFTA, and it's been clear that we need to look at the regional economic communities and the lessons learned there in terms of looking at how we implement and how we build up these national and regional strategies in order to implement the AFCFTA. It's also very clear that we need to be working together and really reaching out and consulting with all of the stakeholders involved, not just the government, but the private sectors, NGOs, informal traders, and the young population and women. So consultation and preparation is going to be really, really key as we go through this implementation and ratification process. And then with the discussion that we've just had, I think it's clear that not only learning from the regional economic communities, but also looking at leadership. You know, who is going to lead this process and how are they going to lead this process, and who can we look to in order to lead this process going forward. We do have some good learnings from some of the regional economic communities, and we need to build on that for a way forward. They say if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together. I think that's the spirit of the AFCFTA. With the right thinking and the right preparation, we can definitely get there. But there are many conversations to still be had. So I would like to take this opportunity to also thank the organisers. They're the reason that we're actually here meeting today. So I'd like to thank the Rockefeller Foundation, the UN Economic Commission for Africa, the Federal Government of Nigeria in collaboration with the African Union Commission. I'd also like to thank you, the audience. You've been fantastic. You've really been engaging, very participatory as well throughout the whole day. And sincere apologies for the late starts and the difference of timings. I understand that can be a bit frustrating and has been throughout the day, so we sincerely apologize for that. In terms of what this evening has to hold, we're closing the event today, but then we're going to have a cocktail outside, just where you've had your tea breaks on the landing. Then there will be the gala dinner at 7:30, which will be in this room, so it'll be magically transformed to a gala dinner reception with all the bells and whistles on, I've heard. And then tomorrow morning registration will be from 8 o'clock, and we will kick off at 9 sharp. We have very honourable guests, but we don't have the Vice President, unfortunately, coming again tomorrow. So we will be starting at 9 a.m. sharp. Again, thank you very much for your participation and for coming to the Africa Trade Forum 2018. Thank you.